For me, just because I had that heart attack, and then, but not about that, but when my family was there, like.
Captain Sig Hansen survived 2 deadly heart attacks and now lives in fear. This wasn't his only trouble. He also faced court after assaulting an Uber driver while drunk. Police dragged him away in handcuffs. At home, his estranged daughter accused him of abuse from decades ago. The tough fishing captain who conquered the Bering Sea now battles his health, his past, and his demons all at once. Sig Hansen was born on April 28, 1966, in Seattle, Washington. He was the first in his family to be born in America, but the sea was already in his blood. His father, Sverre, had come from Norway, bringing with him generations of fishing tradition. At home, Sig grew up hearing Norwegian stories, celebrating Norwegian holidays, and learning how hard work could keep a family afloat. He wasn't just an American kid, he was a fisherman's son, raised between 2 worlds, one full of opportunity and the other full of storms. His father wasn't just any fisherman. Sverre Hansen changed the game. In the 1960s, most boats in Alaska only worked part of the year. Sverre didn't accept that. He and his father introduced a new way to fish opilio crab during the off-season. It was risky. The waters were dangerous. The equipment had to be built from scratch, and no one had tried it before. But it worked. Sverre made enough to build his own boat, the FV Northwestern, in 1977. It was 108 feet long and could hold 156 crab pots. That boat would become the heart of the Hansen legacy. Sig joined the crew when he was just 14. While other kids were learning algebra, he was hauling crab in freezing seas, sometimes through 30-foot waves. He spent summers in Norway learning how to fish cod and mackerel from old-timers who used the stars and clouds to guide them. By the time he was 16, he had more hours at sea than many grown men. He was already scarred, sunburned, and ready for anything. Each trip taught him something new, lessons no classroom could offer. During high school, Sig was barely around. Teachers saw him as the kid who skipped class but still turned in his work, often stained with diesel or crab guts. By junior year, he had clocked over 2,000 hours on the water. His friends thought he was tough, older than his age. When he graduated, he didn't even pause. He went straight back to the sea. From 1984 to 1988, Sig worked almost non-stop. He learned every part of the boat: engine, hydraulics, gear, weather. Nothing was too small for him to master. He rose through the ranks fast. At 22, he became a relief skipper. That happened because a captain suddenly quit, and the crew asked Sig's father to let the young guy take charge. Sig didn't hesitate. He stepped up, despite having no formal training for the role. By the time he was 24, Sig was the full-time captain of the Northwestern. That made him one of the youngest skippers in the Bering Sea. This wasn't a gift, it was earned. He had proven himself. The sea respected results, not age. Sig had to lead men older than him, some with more experience. He had to keep the boat running, keep the crew safe, and bring back the catch. Every decision counted. One mistake could cost lives. Those early years weren't easy. Sig later admitted, "I just went out there and winged it." He was still learning, but he learned fast. If the gear broke, he fixed it. If the weather turned, he read it. He made hard calls without flinching. The sea was brutal, and so was the job. Sig knew one thing: if you didn't perform, you were done. His motto was simple: bring home the catch, or go back to being a deckhand. That pressure shaped his leadership. Between 1990 and 1995, Sig became known for being fast, focused, and relentless. He didn't waste time with long talks or second guesses. His crew either followed him or left. He wasn't looking for friends, he wanted results. In the Bering Sea, you couldn't afford a single second of hesitation. Sig demanded total focus, total effort, and loyalty. If you gave him that, he'd lead you through anything. If you didn't, he'd throw you off the boat. This intensity paid off. By the early 2000s, long before he was famous, Sig had built a reputation as one of the best. The Northwestern had never lost a man, even though the Bering Sea claimed an average of 37 fishermen each year. Injuries were rare on his boat, 85% fewer than other vessels. His obsession with maintenance and precision kept things running tight. And when it came to performance, few could match him. In 2005, during the King Crab Derby, Sig's boat brought in $1.2 million worth of catch in just 3 days. That record still stands. From 1990 to 2005, the Northwestern ranked in the top 10 of the entire 65-boat fleet for 15 seasons in a row. That's almost unheard of. That's when the Discovery Channel took notice. The Deadliest catch had just started, and they wanted results. So they did something wild. They gave Sig a $250,000 bonus for his catches in 2004 and 2005. That's about $368,000 in today's money. It wasn't just about crab, it was about the show. And Sig's crew gave them drama, tension, and record-breaking numbers. While others were fighting breakdowns and bad luck, the Northwestern delivered, again and again. That bonus helped him upgrade everything. New sonar, new pot tracking gear. His lead got even wider. But no tech could prepare you for what happened next. In the middle of a winter storm with waves over 30 feet, Sig's brother Edgar got slammed in the head by a flying chunk of ice. No hospital, no help, just Sig in the galley, with a fishing hook and some dental floss. He stitched the wound himself, steady hands in a shaking boat. He'd done it before. Broken bones, deep cuts, infected teeth, all fixed by hand. Their father taught them that a real fisherman had to be a doctor too. And Sig took that to heart. Of course, the Northwestern wasn't just Sig's show. It was a family business. He started running the boat at 22, with his brothers Edgar and Norman by his side. Their family had been fishing for generations, long before Alaska even had a crab industry. Their grandfather helped invent opilio crab fishing. Their father brought those lessons to the United States. The brothers split the work, Sig on strategy, Edgar keeping the engine alive, Norman doing the quiet work that made everything run. They fought, sure. Sig didn't make it easy. He worked like a machine and expected the same from everyone else. As years passed, fans saw Sig change too. He wasn't just the gruff captain anymore. He became a father figure, especially to his daughter Mandy. She started working with him on the Northwestern. In one unforgettable episode from season 16, she actually outfished him. Sig didn't get mad, he looked proud. You could see it in his face. That was a turning point. It showed that the future of the boat, and maybe the show, was in good hands. But Sig's fame didn't stop with Deadliest catch. In 2011, something strange happened. He got a call about a Pixar movie. The film was Cars 2, and they wanted him to voice a character. The role? A boat named Krabby. And Krabby wasn't just any boat. He was basically the animated version of Sig's real-life vessel, the blue and white FV Northwestern. It all started when Sig met Pixar director John Lasseter at a racing event. They started talking, and next thing Sig knew, he was in a recording booth. The team at Pixar got everything right. Krabby had all the Northwestern's gear, cranes, crab cages, the works. But the funny part came when Sig had to tone things down. This wasn't Discovery Channel anymore. No swearing, they told him. Let's keep it rated G. The movie opened with Krabby carrying British spy Finn McMissile, voiced by Michael Caine. And when the premiere came around, Sig found himself standing near David Beckham. He wanted a photo, but didn't have the guts to ask. Captain Sig Hansen's life looks steady on the surface. Fishing legend, TV fame, a tight-knit crew. But underneath, it's full of deep wounds, broken ties, and battles that never really ended. His first marriage to Lisa Ekstrom didn't last long. It ended before their daughter Melissa was even born. What came next was ugly. In 1990, Lisa's mother noticed something troubling after bathing the 2-year-old girl. Doctors at Harborview Medical Center said the signs strongly pointed to sexual abuse. Police arrested Hansen, but prosecutors didn't file charges. They said there wasn't enough evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Still, Deputy Prosecutor Paul Stern said the reports suggested sexually inappropriate behavior. Hansen denied everything. He said it was all lies, a money grab meant to ruin him. In 2016, Melissa, now a 28-year-old lawyer, sued her father. She said the trauma of what happened wrecked her life, leading to depression, eating disorders, and suicidal thoughts. After that chaos, Sig tried to build a new life. In 2001, he married June. It worked. He adopted her 2 daughters, Nina and Mandy, and raised them as his own. With this second family, he found peace and purpose. Mandy became his assistant captain on the FV Northwestern. She wasn't just part of the show Deadliest Catch, she became the future of the Hansen legacy. Sig taught her the ropes, preparing her to lead one day. They worked side by side, a fishing team and a family. Back home in Shoreline, Washington, they had a real home, something solid, something safe. But even with a new family, the pain from the past didn't disappear. After the divorce, Sig gave up his parental rights to Melissa. He said it was the hardest thing he's ever done. He cried while talking about it. He said it was for her own good, that the court told him the ongoing fight with Lisa would only make things worse for the child. For years, there was no contact. Then, in 2010, Melissa reached out while in law school. She needed money. Sig brought in a professional mediator. They tried to reconnect, but it fell apart fast. Sig claimed Melissa and her mother threatened to go public unless he gave her $300,000. Melissa allegedly told the mediator she planned to write a tell-all book. Whatever hope there was, vanished. The lawsuit she filed in 2016 reopened every scar. Still, Sig never let go of his roots. He made sure his daughters learned Norwegian before English. It wasn't just a language, it was their blood. His own parents only spoke Norwegian at home. He wanted that tradition to survive. Even on his ship, the Northwestern, you'd see Norwegian flags flying high. His fishing style, his discipline, his way of life, it all came from that heritage. It wasn't just about being American. It was about remembering where it all started. And for Sig, it started on a little island in Norway, Mortholmen, a place where his grandmother once worked in a herring factory, a place where he first learned to fish. It was more than just land. It was memory, history, legacy. So he bought it, not for profit, but for pride. He said, "That's where everything started for me." Many of the fishermen who left that island ended up in Alaska. Sig followed in their footsteps and became one of the most famous captains on the Bering Sea. But no matter how far he went, Mortholmen stayed with him. Buying that island wasn't just sentimental, it was his way of keeping the past alive, a tribute to the people and the place that made him who he is. One cold day in March 2016, the crew of the FV Northwestern was doing what they always did, hauling crab in brutal Bering Sea conditions. But this time, something was different. Captain Sig Hansen, the man known for powering through storms and never backing down, suddenly clutched his chest. He felt a sharp pain shoot through his left arm. At first, he brushed it off. "Just a muscle cramp," he said. "Maybe bad sleep." But as cameras kept rolling for Deadliest Catch, Sig collapsed. He briefly blacked out. The crew watched in horror. What he'd suffered was known as the Widowmaker, a type of heart attack so severe, doctors later told him he had just a 50-50 shot at surviving it. He was only 49, and he was hundreds of miles from proper medical help. Still half-conscious, Sig wanted to keep fishing. That's how deep the job ran in his blood. But his crew pushed back. His brother radioed, desperate. "This is the Northwestern. My brother's having chest pain. Can you meet us at the dock in half an hour?" A helicopter flew him 800 miles to Anchorage. It likely saved his life. Meanwhile, his wife June and daughters Mandy and Nina rushed from the mainland to be by his side. Afterward, Sig was forced to face something he'd always pushed aside, his own mortality. The man who once seemed invincible now admitted, "I don't like it anymore. I'm scared. I think about it every single day." The boat had become a trigger. He couldn't even remember parts of the king crab season that followed. But when it came time to choose, he still got back on the Northwestern. "I'm a fisherman," he told his wife. "It's my boat. I need to prove it to myself." 6 months later, he returned to sea. The doctors warned him. His body wasn't what it used to be. He had to change everything: what he ate, how he handled stress, how he lived. His daughter Mandy posted a picture from the hospital. "Cap survived the Widowmaker. Beating a heart attack ain't easy. Welcome back, boss." But even with all the changes, one thing didn't shift: Sig's desire to keep going. He was now also about to become a grandfather, and that gave him a new reason to fight harder. Then, just when life seemed stable again, it happened. On October 4th, 2018, 2 years after the first heart attack, Sig quit smoking. He remembers the date clearly, but that very same day, something terrifying hit him again. He had gone to the dentist and taken an antibiotic for a sinus infection. Hours later, while driving through Seattle with his wife, he began turning red. His throat tightened, his hands swelled. He couldn't breathe, he couldn't talk, he was choking. In a panic, he sped through the city, hitting 100 miles per hour, trying to get to the hospital. He dumped his truck on the sidewalk and ran inside. "I pointed at my throat, said choke, and showed them the pills," he recalled. The nurse later told him he had just 10 minutes left to live. The doctors gave him a shot of epinephrine, standard for allergic reactions, but it had an unexpected effect. It saved him from suffocating, but it caused his heart to seize. The adrenaline triggered a second heart attack. His artery was completely blocked, again, just like before. Sig joked darkly, "That allergy brought on a heart attack, so I went through that baloney again." This second scare was different. There were no cameras this time, no deck, no storm, just a quiet car ride, a pill, and suddenly life on the line again. When he told his crew later on the season 15 premiere, they were stunned. One of them said what everyone was thinking: the first heart attack should have been an eye-opener. This time, it hit Sig harder emotionally. He wasn't just shaken, he was tired. He admitted, "I don't know how much more I've got left in me." He couldn't remember entire parts of the season. He was haunted by the thought of another attack. "Every morning and night I think, am I gonna have another one?" Eventually Mandy, his daughter, stepped up to help run the ship. Fans wondered if it was time for Sig to finally retire. He didn't have the answer. "The show is part of our life," he said. "As long as the show is going, I'll probably still be part of it. But I have to be careful now. I've got to put my health first." Captain Sig Hansen had always been seen as the tough but steady hand behind the wheel of the Northwestern on Deadliest catch. But everything changed on May 18, 2017. That night, after celebrating Norway's Constitution Day with his family in Ballard, Seattle, things took a dark turn. Hansen and 3 others called an Uber to take them to Shoreline. Wahid Lawal, the driver, showed up and started the ride. But something went wrong. The ride was canceled in the app, and when Lawal said he couldn't accept cash, Hansen snapped. In a fit of rage, Hansen and his son-in-law, Clark Peterson, spit on the driver's seat and even on the back of Lawal's head. Then, Hansen got out of the car and kicked it hard, leaving a dent the size of a boot in the rear fender. When police checked the car later, they found both the dent and the spit. It wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a meltdown, and it shattered the clean-cut image Hansen had built on television. Exactly 370 days later, Hansen stood in court. On May 23, 2018, he pleaded guilty to misdemeanor assault. It was part of a deal. He'd do community service, pay restitution, and avoid jail if he followed the rules for a year. But Judge Edward McKenna didn't go easy. He wasn't buying Hansen's alcohol evaluation, which claimed the captain had no major drinking problem. The judge questioned it openly and ordered a second, deeper evaluation. He also brought up a past charge from 2008 in Alaska, hinting this may not have been a one-time thing. Behind the scenes, police body cam footage told an even messier story. When officers showed up at Hansen's house after the Uber incident, they found him drunk and defiant. He denied everything, clapped his hands, and tried to end the conversation. "Nope, so no, this is no, that means we're done," he said, as if the issue would just disappear, but it didn't. As he resisted the officers, they had to physically drag him away from his doorway and put him in handcuffs. That footage would later be key evidence, showing the captain not as a calm leader, but as someone unhinged. Hansen quickly realized the damage was done. That same day, he issued a public apology. He said he was terribly sorry and very embarrassed, admitting he had no excuse for his behavior. He wanted to apologize directly to the Uber driver and took full responsibility. Still, the legal process dragged on. Hansen eventually got a deferred sentence. No jail, but 1 year on probation, mandatory alcohol treatment, community service, and payments to the victim. His son-in-law's charges were reduced too. Clark Peterson got hit with harassment and also had to do community service and pay fines. Meanwhile, the Uber driver, Wahid Lawal, didn't stop there. He filed a civil lawsuit for assault and battery. The trial was set for August 2018. Lawal, a recent Nigerian immigrant, said the incident made him feel unsafe and unwelcome. His lawyer said the guilty plea helped restore Lawal's faith in the justice system. But the scars from that night weren't so easy to erase. Despite everything, Hansen didn't lose his job. Discovery Channel stood by him. He stayed on Deadliest Catch and even launched a new spin-off in 2022 called The Viking Returns with his daughter Mandy. The network never publicly distanced itself. Even with a storm of bad press, Hansen's career stayed afloat. But more trouble followed. In 2016, a woman named Melissa Ekstrom, a 28-year-old lawyer in Seattle, filed a lawsuit against her father, Captain Sig Hansen, a famous fisherman known from the show Deadliest Catch. She claimed he had sexually abused her back in 1990 when she was only 2 years old. At that time, her parents were going through a bitter divorce. According to court records, Melissa reportedly told both her grandmothers disturbing things. She said, "Daddy pottied on my leg," and "Daddy hurt my bottom." In interviews with a doctor, she used dolls to show what happened and pointed to areas that raised red flags. She said her dad poked her with his big pee-pee. She said that moment changed her whole life. From childhood into adulthood, she struggled with eating problems, depression, and even suicidal thoughts. Her mother said that every time it was time to visit her father, Melissa would panic and cling tightly to her. But the most alarming part came from a medical exam done in July 1990 at Harborview Medical Center. Dr. Mary Gibbons ran the tests and found physical injuries that she said were consistent with sexual abuse. There was scar tissue, signs of internal damage, and even a rectal prolapse, which Dr. Gibbons stated almost never appears in children unless they've been abused. She later wrote that, based on everything she reviewed, Melissa's father appeared to be the abuser. Despite all that, the case was full of contradictions. Back in 1990, prosecutors looked at the evidence but decided not to file criminal charges. One of them even wrote a letter to Melissa's mother saying, "This is not to suggest we do not believe the allegations," but added that proving the case would be difficult. At one point, Edmonds police even arrested Sig Hansen. Still, over the years, prosecutors reviewed the case at least 4 times, every time deciding not to move forward due to lack of solid proof. Even Child Protective Services got involved. In a report from 1992, they wrote that Hansen had repeatedly molested his daughter. But that same year, a divorce court judge said the abuse didn't happen. He based his decision on a psychiatrist who claimed Melissa had likely been manipulated by her mother, a controversial idea called parental alienation syndrome, which suggests a child can be influenced to make false claims. Hansen has always denied everything. He said the entire case was a lie made up by his ex-wife to take his daughter away. In 2017, he told the press it's blackmail. He even built a website to defend himself called sighansenfacts.com. He said he passed a lie detector test in 1990, and he believed his daughter was brainwashed by her mother to think these things really happened. After prosecutors again declined to press charges in 2017, Hansen said he wasn't surprised. It matched the decision made back in 1990 and echoed what the divorce court ruled years earlier. Melissa and her lawyers nearly settled the lawsuit in 2016. The offer on the table was $1.5 million, but it fell apart. She said Hansen added a strange demand, that she give up her law license if the deal ever leaked. Melissa refused. She later went public with her story, saying she did so because of growing pressure and threats from Hansen's legal team. By 2017, the case was in a legal limbo. A judge had ruled that Melissa had the right to pursue a civil case, even though the earlier court had found her father innocent. Hansen's team tried to get the lawsuit thrown out, but it didn't work. So the case moved forward, and prosecutors reopened their review. They read through medical files, interviewed witnesses, and talked to specialists. But on March 23, 2017, they closed the door again. No criminal charges would be filed. The case, after nearly 3 decades, remained stuck in the same unresolved space. In 2014, something big happened to Captain Sig Hansen. He was officially honored and inducted into the Scandinavian American Hall of Fame. This wasn't a small thing. Past members included names like Doc Severinsen from The Tonight Show and singer Bobby Vee. But this moment was all about Sig. It wasn't just for being a tough and successful fishing captain. It was about what he stood for, keeping Norwegian traditions alive and showing them to the world. But the real turning point came when Sig faced something harder than the sea. His daughter, Mandy Hansen, wanted to join the family business. At first, Sig was against it. He had lost too many friends to the sea. He couldn't imagine letting his daughter risk the same fate. "I did not want her on the boat," he admitted in interviews. "I've lost so many friends, you can't even comprehend." But Mandy was determined. At just 18, she stepped into the freezing, brutal world of crab fishing. She was young, she was one of the only women out there, and she was Sig Hansen's daughter. That came with pressure. People doubted her, some thought she had it easy. Mandy told People magazine, "They think you're silver spoon-fed, but I'm still out there, working like everyone else."